I assume.
Mhm.
Anyway, I want to welcome everyone to another week. Will the rabbi be with us today?
I don't know. He's in New York visiting his family.
Okay, so
It's what is it? It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So who knows what he's doing?
family matters take priority.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, anyway, I want to welcome everyone. And as you may recall, whoops, excuse me. As you may recall, we were in the midst of the story of Jacob in Haran and some of his interactions with Laban and the the wages that he will be paid is in terms of time. So 7 years for Leah and 7 years for Rachel, I believe.
Mhm.
And so we sort of ended in that region. Does anybody know the exact verse we ended on?
18, 29, 18 is where we're starting.
Okay.
That's where we ended, right?
We had spoken about the phrase weak eyes, mening, hi, Rabbi, welcome.
Good morning, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
We ended with a discussion about Leah having weak eyes and Rachel being shapely and beautiful in verse 17. And Rabbi Norman had said that that we should not look at weak eyes as a malady, but that it can also be looked at as tender eyes, and maybe a bit of wisdom as well. So if we go on, if somebody would like to please read with verse 18, that's Genesis 29, verse 18, and then we can begin there.
I'd be happy to start.
Okay, thank you, David.
Okay, and Jacob rose up early in the morning and took the stone that he had put under his head and set it up for a pillar and poured oil upon the top of it because he was very tired having looked at the
He's in the wrong chapter.
You're in the wrong chapter, David.
29.
This would be
29, 18.
Oh, 29. Oh, this is all different. So no one noticed that I added something. How about, and where's 18 here? Oh yeah, here we are in 18. And Jacob loved Rachel. Is that better?
Yes,
much better.
Jacob loved Rachel, and he said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter, having seen the wonderful faint comet last night. And Laban said, it is better that I gave her to thee than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days for the love he had to her.
Okay, let's stop there. Any comments that anyone would like to make? I think it fitting that David brought in the comments about the comet.
Well, I do know that they couldn't use a telescope to see it, but there's no question that there were comets in the Bible, and in the Book of Chronicles, they actually mention one with a sword hanging over Jerusalem. It's said every year at the Passover Seder. So comets do get mentioned in the Bible. So I just thought I'd throw that in for fun.
Yeah.
I just had just one comment, and Jacob loved Rachel. I'm using Eitz Chaim, the Chumash, and it says this is an unusual instance of romantic love. in a world where marriage was typically an economic arrangement between two families. So, rather than a typical business arrangement, I mean, it was a business arrangement, but it was precipitated by actual romantic love, which is kind of unusual. More like the way it is today, supposedly. No.
Yes, more so than the financial arrangement. Any other comments?
I think it's rather
Was
sweet.
his offer to serve for 7 years, was that considered an amazing, an amazing offer, or was that a typical kind of offer? Was was Laban overwhelmed, or would it just, okay, well, all right, I guess that's the going rate?
What I have here is the 7 years of service are to be in place of the usual bride price, known as the mohar in Hebrew, and terhatum in Akkadian, an institution discussed in the comment to chapter 24, verse 53. Jacob, working to pay off the bride price, will have the status of an indentured laborer.
Right.
So it's
That
a
is
little bit different.
Well,
So he's actually agreeing to be a slave for 7 years to pay the bride price.
well, he didn't have money, I guess, so
No.
he had to do something.
Well,
They used to give the animals like cows, and but he didn't have it. So what do you do? So he had to work to do something.
okay. Yes, Larry, you had something. Maybe-
First,
Yes, please.
in regarding verse 20, says the 6 Hebrew words for which this is a translation condense a world of affection and tenderest love. They are unsurpassed in the whole literature of romantic love. Now, I could question that, but he is really impressed by this verse.
Rachel.
I have another bit of information with regard to Rabbi Roman's comment that in the Mari, M-A-R-I, the Mari texts, they document a practice of nomads who hired themselves out as shepherds to various villagers. And usually it would be for a term of 10 years. So so Jacob is getting a bargain.
He's getting a discount.
Yes.
Marty, you for the price of one.
30% off. Yeah.
Yes, Ruth Ann.
Yeah, I got a question. Since Leah, the older daughter, was not married, would Rachel have been allowed to marry regardless at that point? Or would she have had to wait for Leah to get married no matter what?
That comes up very shortly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we know what happens, but I'm just saying, because Laban was just, sneaky. But regardless, I mean, at any point, would Rachel have been allowed to marry before Leah?
I don't think so.
I don't
I
think
mean,
so. I don't
Not
think
in
so.
those days. The first
It seemed like it was a tradition rather than a law.
Right.
So based on that, I mean, you can dispense with tradition without violating the law, which obviously Laban agreed to do initially, even though he changed his mind.
Well, he might have thought in 7 years he'd be able to marry her off too. Who knows?
That's
I
possible.
have a
Yes,
comment.
Chris. Yes, Chris.
It seems to me that all of this is done with a treasury convenience thing for Laban, because I can't believe that it took him 7 years for him to decide, okay, it's Rachel or Leah, and he tricked Jacob on with Leah at the wedding night. So I don't know that there is really a tradition or a mandatory thing. I think it just was convenient for Laban to get rid of the two girls and make it work for him for 14 years.
Well, of course, this is also the revenge of
Right.
Jacob deceiving his father and getting the blessing instead of Esau. So
Right.
this is what he gets in
Yeah,
return. He's deceived.
I think
You
it
know, the
runs in the
parallel is
family.
pretty striking. Yeah,
I think it runs in the family, right?
and deceit certainly runs in Laban's character too.
Right.
Okay. Any
I think
other
there was a-
comment?
By extension, you could say that it's in Rebecca's family. that
Right.
she
You're right.
participated
It
in-
Yes,
runs.
it-
Including,
Right.
yeah.
But Rebecca
think-
wasn't.
Wait a minute. David has had his hand up for a while.
Well, that's okay. I just wanted to add that the comment earlier, the very prescient comment earlier about the greatest love story in history reminds me of that movie, The Princess Bride, where they
Oh,
actually make the same comment about of the 5 greatest kisses in history.
Mhm.
I think that might be appropriate and relevant to that.
It is interesting because we had great love stories with Abraham and Sarah, with Isaac and Rebecca. I mean, they were supposed to be, very powerful love stories too.
Yeah.
And what is the
It's
Torah
appropriate.
without love?
But I think that the point is that and as you said earlier, that this particular verb that he loved her
You're right.
after she was described as shapely and beautiful or whatever, but that's not necessarily a verb that we see that often. We don't see that verb with Abraham and Sarah, for example. So it's it differentiates the relationship, at least at this stage.
Okay, well, the discussion sort of jumped the gun because now we will read what has transpired, and we can think about the questions that we have raised already. So, if David, would you like to continue, please, with verse 21?
Verse 21. And Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go in with her. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place, and he made a feast. And it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah his daughter, and brought her to him, and he went in unto her. And Laban gave Zilpah his handmaid under his daughter Leah for a handsmaid. And it came to pass in the morning that, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, what is this thou hast done unto me? Did I not serve with thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? And Laban said, it is not so done in our place, and give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill the week. All right.
Keep going.
Fulfill the week of this one, and we will give thee the other also for the service which thou shalt serve with me yet another 7 years.
Okay. So why don't you finish with verse 28?
All right. And Jacob did so and fulfilled her week, and he finally gave him Rachel, his daughter, to wife.
Okay. So Jacob is going to get 2 for the price of 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Larry, I see your hand up. Chris, did you have your hand up?
No, I
Okay.
said for one, the price of one.
Okay.
Well,
Larry?
Okay, the text leans towards monotheism, but not monogamy.
True.
Well, at that time, it's very true. It's a very good statement. I like it.
You can
Any
quote.
other? And did you have any other comments? No. Okay. Yes. Yes, Grace.
Thank you. I was just, I just wanted to comment on Jacob's diligence and how he seems willing to go through whatever it's going to take. And isn't that part of what he was, taught, and, the things that he had to go through prior to this? It's all about, to me, it's about his character and wanting to keep, truthfulness and God in the picture and the traditions, and, just presume goodwill and make things happen. That's
Okay.
all. I'm just, and you can look at it as a question or a way to maybe help me understand better. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Any other comments?
I think it's
Yeah.
interesting that.
Okay, wait a minute. Wait, Michael.
sorry.
Joanne had her hand up first.
Oh, I'm wondering at this point, how old is Jacob? Somehow or other, I was thinking he was like almost 40 when his dad passed away. Now he's in his 50s already, somewhere. I'm just wondering, it just seems like he's an old man already.
Well, let's at least middle age. Middle age sort of gets older as we age.
Yeah.
But anyway, Michael, you had something you wanted to say.
Oh, I just wanted to point out that his nature, Jacob, growing up, wasn't being an indentured servant or being a laborer or being a shepherd. He was a homebody. He was used to just hanging around the house and not really working. So it was even more remarkable that he could do this kind of labor when it wasn't anything he had been trained to do, and do it apparently really well.
Yeah.
Do you think in hanging around the house, he learns a few things about his family, his father's family?
Yeah.
More
I don't know if he learned a lot. I mean, he seemed to be a mother's boy, and
Sure.
the favorite of Isaac was Esau. So I think my feeling is, just from the text, is that he spent more time with his mother than with his father.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone think that the events at what is he names Bethel, does that have anything to do with this? His changing character, or his changing character?
Well, I guess no one else is responding. I don't mean to hog the discussion here. I guess I shouldn't use.
Okay, let me respond to Chris and then Grace.
Yes, I also see something that it appears to me possible, that Jacob was more of a student, more of a person that learned, than more of a field man like Esau was. He was a homebody, but I don't think he was just doodling his fingers. I think he was learning about God through mother, servants, things like that, because you just don't stay idle. Don't do that.
Well, wait a minute, that's way ahead. That's going to be way ahead. Idols haven't come up yet.
No. I said you don't. You don't stay with that. No.
DLT.
Not doing something instead of being idle, doing nothing. You study and you learn, just like Joseph was. In a way, I'm thinking of Jacob that way. I don't know why, but Joseph was a well-learned man, and he learned that from his father and his mother as well. I think. I don't know. But that's the impression that I have. So as he grows older, I think he becomes wiser with the things that he has learned. And the blessing above all, he did receive that blessing from his father. So, and ultimately God. And that's all.
Okay. Grace, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, my thought there is very similar to Chris's. Is that he's trying to honor his father's highest blessing, and I think that's his drive, and he's just internally trying to make that his drive. So I think I'm just repeating what I've already said and what Chris said. So thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Rabbi Roman, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I don't necessarily go in a different direction, but the idea that Lavan says, let's wait a week. Okay.
Yeah.
On the one hand, that's it's a week-long festivities for the community to recognize that indeed Jacob would be married to Leah. So is Lavan hoping that maybe Jacob's going to change his mind, and in that week, or is he being somewhat protective of Leah, so that she's not humiliated, in the eyes of the community, or certainly in the eyes of her sister? It's always struck me, what does that week serve to fulfill? And then, okay, wait the week, and then you not serve 7 more years, and then you can have Rachel. You can have Rachel at the end of this week, but as long as you're promising, and I accept your promise to serve for another 7 years.
What does Laban do with regard to Isaac, the servant that's going to select the bride for Isaac? Isn't there a week that is discussed there as well?
Yeah, I don't remember offhand, but historically that was the week. There was a week of acknowledging to the population that this is a legitimate kind of thing, as opposed to a one-night stand. But
earlier we had discussed that week in the context of time to change, for Rachel to change her mind. Mm-hmm. We discussed deception at that time, that Laban was trying to come up with ways to deceive Abraham's manservant. So we've changed some of the discussion here from earlier times, but it overlaps. It's the same 7 days or a week that is requested for Rachel to come up with getting ready to go, but after several days of waiting, the manservant says, "No, I have to take Rachel back, and to Abraham." And here we're agreeing. We see that Joseph is agreeing to that 7 days, and whether the feast is part of the local custom, or whether it is time to come up with a game plan for deception, I don't know. All I'm saying is that I think it's fair game to discuss all of those things. It's also notification to everyone around that this is a legitimate, intentional event that is taking place.
Actually, I have the passage here, if you want.
Jacob doesn't reject Leah.
Right, he doesn't.
What is this? I thought I was supposed to be marrying Rachel.
Yeah. But he accepts the terms of this new contract or covenant.
Right.
So the question also should be raised, is the 7 years that he agrees to part of a normal covenant? And we had discussed this with what was going on traditionally in that region, and that this is, he's getting a bargain, 7 years instead of 10. So it may be that depending on how you want to interpret things, each one of the different interpretations would be fine. I don't think we know enough to say it's one way or the other. Which way, which interpretation would be the best way? Yes, David.
And Wendy has a comment.
Oh, Wendy.
Remember, we can't have two computers on at the same time.
Right.
How often has this kind of a deception happened? So, like, is this the one and only time a prospective father-in-law has tricked the son-in-law, or has this happened before? Could he have expected it?
Actually,
I don't know the answer to that. I don't think this type of deception, other than what we know about Laban, I don't know if it comes up any other time.
what we have a tradition now with Jewish weddings to make sure it doesn't happen. The bride's veil is lifted, so the groom sees face to face the woman he's marrying to make sure that there's no deception, that he's getting what he wanted.
Right.
And it's related to this passage, actually. It's interesting. I read a comment about how could Jacob not know that this wasn't Rachel? You know, he's spending the night in his tent, or her tent, I guess, with a woman he thinks is Rachel, and doesn't realize until the morning that, hey, that's not Rachel. That's not.
Several hands went up simultaneously, but I just want to interject. Maybe he got drunk at the feast.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was just a
okay.
wild.
Well, so Steve, you've been sitting there very quietly. What were you thinking?
No, exactly the same thing. I was going to say it was just a wild wedding party. Yeah. and he probably was a little stoned. Yeah. So.
And it's dark in the desert.
Okay, Chris, and then Joanne.
Yes, I was reading from the Tanakh where it shows that Laban had already intended to substitute Leah for Rachel, because it had something to do with the servant maid that he gave to, according to, let me see who says this. Laban substitutes, the Rashi from Megillah 13b. It says that Zilpah was the maidservant that was supposed to serve for Rachel because she was the youngest one. What Bilhah was the oldest one, so she was supposed to be given to Leah, and it got backwards. So there was definitely a deceitful, because if Isaac knew that, Jacob knew that he was supposed to get Rachel with the younger servant. So I thought, boy, this is worse than Peyton Place, Just really all changed around and moved around. So Laban can get whatever he wants. I think ultimately the goal was for Jacob to work 7 more years for him, regardless, and he was going to get it.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm gonna. There's something I wanted to add, but it may come up in discussion. First, Larry, and then Joanne, and then Steve again.
Okay, regarding the
Gail has her hand up.
Oh,
the 7 years, 7 is a recurring theme. God rested on the seventh day, the 7 days of the week. But wasn't there also the grain to store for 7
Right.
years?
Yes.
So I think,
In Egypt.
yeah, in Egypt, right.
Right.
That's right.
Mhm.
7 7 is one of the numbers for Las Vegas also. Gail, did you? Gail, I'm sorry, I did not see Gail's hand. Steve, she's had it up for a long time, and it was blending in with the books, and I apologize, Gail.
Sure. There's somebody being left out of this discussion. Did Rachel feel jilted?
Is it me now?
I'm questioning. There's no discussion what Rachel thinks or says about
If I
all
could
this.
offer,
Didn't she expect to get married and, he loved her and blah, blah, blah. And suddenly, she's not at the party.
Just quit, yeah. I do.
It does come out later.
Wait a minute. I've missed the sequence. The sequence. I think I'm skipping over.
You're skipping over me a little bit.
I'm sorry, Steve.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring up. We've encountered previously questioning of the units of time, and I don't really find that here. Is the 7 years really 7 years? Or was it years like we've previously encountered that are not exactly a year? Because being 14 years older,
yeah,
that's pretty excessive. We seem to be accepting it, but that's a long time to wait for anybody.
We don't know what a year is in the Bible.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
right.
what I'm trying to say. I'm asking if this is also because it comes up in other contexts.
Yes.
But not here. I haven't heard or seen any mention in the commentary that maybe the year wasn't a year.
Oh yeah.
That is questioned, Rabbi. You've encountered that.
Yeah, maybe not in the classical medieval commentators, but more contemporary commentators. Most of them would say that the word Shana is not year; it's a season, a seasonal change. So that could be a minimum of 2, if not 4 times a year.
Got it.
yeah, or there's also, the first month of the year is Nisan. The head of the year is Tishrei. They're about 6 months apart. So maybe a year was really 6 months. So they weren't in the desert 40 years, they were in the desert 20 years.
Interesting. Good comment. Chris,
I just want to respond. I don't know if I'm next or not, but what Gail brought up about how did Rachel feel about all this? Was she aware? One commentator I read said that she actually knew what was going to happen, that Lavan had told both sisters, this is what's going to happen. And out of respect for her sister, she actually helped her sister be like Rachel. She taught her certain gestures, certain mannerisms, certain words that they would like, love words and expressions they would call each other, and to help her go through with this disguise that helped Jacob think, yeah, this is Rachel. So, and
okay,
of course,
first Chris and then Steve.
Thank you. Once again, I'll go back to the Tanakh, and I just came across something that's really beautiful. It says the Meftav Melihayu, Elihayu, I guess is pronounced correctly, Rabbi?
What?
That's from the
Eliyahu, but I don't know what the first word is.
Okay, well, it's Meftav. That must be the first name.
What pasuk? Oh, it's a name?
Spell it, please.
Yeah, it's the person that quotes it. Explains the respective roles of the two sisters. Rachel was Jacob's intended mate for this world. Leah was his intended mate for a higher world of the spirit. Rachel was the wife of Jacob, and Leah was the wife of Israel. The name signifying
Okay. Yeah.
signifying higher spiritual role of the future. And I never seen that before.
Okay.
Mhm.
I know, Ricky, Kabbalistically, Leah is given I believe the Sephirot for wisdom. And
I'm here, but I'm running around, but I will check that. I heard you.
okay.
Mhm.
But I think that, and that's why I was alluding to the weak eyes earlier. Yes, Steve, you were.
Yeah. You know, and I hate to be reactionary, but you know, we're sort of imposing our modern
Yes.
egalitarian viewpoints on an old story where, when the story was evolved, created,
Mm-hmm.
we weren't. It wasn't an egalitarian society, and the
More a monogamous society.
The girls
back.
in this story are not exactly, you know, and I hate to say it, but they're not exactly people. They're more like, you know, objects that you just shift around and, you know,
Property. Yes.
easy as that. So it's not even an issue that he did a little shell game with his daughters, you know, because they're daughters, you know, they're his property, you know, he does what he wants.
Right.
So it's not, they're not really,
To get
you
back
know,
to
so hence, you know, when we look at the story from our modern view, you know, we're very concerned about, you know, what was happening in their heads when
Right.
all this was going on. But from the standpoint of the original old story, it's irrelevant.
Okay. I asked Ricky a question and she had an answer.
First of all, you know wisdom has to be King Solomon. Come on. So Leah was not wisdom. She was even higher. She was the crown. She was Keter.
Well, you know, it's interesting because when we say the Amida,
Now, the woman was the
Elohei-
highest.
Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, whose name is listed first. So I think
Yep.
that's significant.
But that's the reform, Amida.
Mhm.
It depends on which Sidur.
Oh,
Some will
You're
say
saying
Leah,
Leah is
some will say Leah.
I gotta go again.
You mean Leah is mentioned first
Yeah.
in the Orthodoxy, though?
No,
No,
not
they
the
don't even get a
Orthodox
mention.
at
the
all.
Orthodox doesn't even
Yeah.
include her, but right.
Okay, I forgot where I put the book with the chart, the Sephirotic chart, and I'll point that out later. Anyway,
I just wanted to also just add, going back to whose question was it initially about what is Rachel thinking through all this? I forgot whose question it was.
Gail.
It was Gail's question. Okay, that it's kind of, you have put the question on hold for a couple chapters, because then when they start having children, then we see what the relationship really is between Rachel and Leah.
Correct. And this will never happen again after Leviticus says you are not permitted to
Right.
marry sisters. So this was something that certainly didn't happen after that, or at least legally. Yeah.
I don't know. You're over.
okay. Yes, please, Joanne.
I'd like to know if Rachel had that week of nice food and you know, a week of honeymoon week like Leah did, because it really doesn't say. It just says he took her as wife. You know, so she missed out on all the presents and other things that might have been happening.
Been there, done that.
I know. It's like,
Now, in verse 25, there's a phrase. In verse 25, towards the end, Jacob says to Laban, "Why did you deceive me?"
Right.
And the Hebrew word, oh, good grief, is it Maritani?
Laramot.
Oh no, Remitani.
Rimitani.
I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Okay. It's the same word that is used in the deception that Isaac says. Why did you deceive me? He says that to Jacob and Rebecca. And now Jacob is saying that same word to Laban.
Mm-hmm.
Any comments about that? I think that's Genesis 27:35.
Yes.
Yeah, in 35. It in the first verse it's a noun, and here it's in the verb form, but it's the same shorish. It's the same root of the word.
So the comment about it was somebody made the comment earlier that that Jacob is getting his just oats. It's coming back. His deceptive behavior is now being played on him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then it goes further. Another commentary here. Laban's remark makes it clear that Jacob has no right to complain, for he now receives retribution for having himself overtaken his older brother Esau. So, yes, Rabbi.
If you want to finish, did you finish your point, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So every once in a while, I've done this for you and with you, that if you look at the verse that you draw our attention to of Jacob's statement, and most of us in our translations will see it as a question, right? That Jacob is saying, "What have you done? What have you done to me? You substituted Leah for Rachel. Why are you deceiving me?" Kind of thing. Okay, it is possible to read it, translate it, understand it as a declarative sentence rather than as a question. In other words, Jacob is now saying, "Aha, I understand this now. I understand that you did this to me, okay? And I understand why this deception was done to me." Not asking, but saying, "I get it."
Uh-huh.
Good point. Any other comments or discussion? David, I just wanted to make a comment about the little advertisement that you have up there with your book.
Over your shoulder.
Over your shoulder, David.
This one?
Yes, that one.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good book. I'll vouch for it.
Thank you. It's not intended as that. It's just
okay. Was there another hand up that I missed? Okay. So why don't we read on? The bridal week has transpired, and are we up to 29?
Yeah, we finished through 28.
Right. And so if somebody, Larry, maybe you have in your book, you can start with verse 29. I see you have your, well, if somebody else that has the,
Yeah, I can do it.
Larry, are you trying to say something? You're muted.
Larry.
There
Okay,
you go, Larry.
29.
Yes.
Okay. And Laban gave to Rachel his daughter Bilhah, his handmaid, to be her handmaid. And he went in also unto Rachel, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and served with him yet 7 other years. And the Lord saw that Leah was hated, and he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Keep
Okay,
going.
let's stop there for a second. Do you find it curious that Laban or Laban is giving his own maidservant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel? Does that ring
that
any
possible?
bells going on? Is she going to be a spy? Is she going to, what's going on? What do you think? Or is it just that it's a gesture that of giving the maidservant? Yes, Ruth
Barney, he
Ann.
gave a maidservant to each of his daughters.
Right.
And they would have been Laban's property before the daughters got married. Yeah. But I
part of the
had
dowry.
something that I was thinking of something that and maybe somebody brought this up before while I was out making myself a cup of tea. But we only are seeing this from Jacob's point of view. I mean, we don't know. Did Rachel love Jacob the way, maybe Leah loved him more. And maybe that's why Rachel was willing or whatever. I mean, we don't know anything from the girl's point of view, do we?
No, really.
No, Steve, but Steve and the rabbi have commented otherwise, that right now that you're bringing in a modern twist to an ancient culture. And,
But again, we're just seeing this ancient culture from the man's side. We don't know, even in the ancient culture, we don't know what the women were feeling. That's all I'm saying, is we have no idea what the women were feeling at the time.
We're told this is one of the greatest love stories of all time. That assumes it was reciprocal, I think.
Yeah.
You can't have a great love story if it's only one side.
Yes, Steve, were you raising your hand again? Oh, okay. Yeah, Rabbi, yes.
I'm just curious with everyone's translation. In verse, okay, so in verse 30, do all the translations say that Jacob loved Rachel more than Leah? Mm-hmm. Or do any of them say that he loved Leah and Rachel also, or one of the other? Because the Hebrew word is gam, which is also not one more than the other.
Ah.
And all of the translations that I remember always seeing made it a qualitative one over the other, more than the other. Right. But the Hebrew could be understood as gam. He loved both of them. Because he, in the first instance, when Leah was substituted, we don't see the word love anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're
right.
My text, my Torah indicates that very subtly, that he loved both of them, kind of, sort of. It doesn't come right out and say this is the way it was.
There's no question that historically and traditionally the love for Rachel is a stronger love.
It's stronger.
But that doesn't mean that he didn't love Leah as well.
But then in 31,
excuse me, Michael, Suzanne has been waiting for a long time with her hand up, and then I'll let you go break in. Yes, Suzanne.
Okay, two things. Regarding my text, it says he loved also Rachel more than Leah, which is kind of interesting.
They have also and more.
Not and more. He loved also Rachel more than Leah.
Mm-hmm.
It fits,
Marty.
but
Marty.
and wait, I got one more.
Okay.
And the other thing was, at least my text says that the handmaid that Laban gave to Rachel was his specific handmaid, but Leah's handmaid was just a handmaid. So I go along with what Marty suggested, that I think Laban wanted to keep his thumbs in on what was going on with Jacob, and knowing that he loved Rachel more, he probably figured he would be more likely to tell Rachel things than he would Leah. So I think that's why he gave Rachel his specific handmaid.
Okay.
My thoughts.
Michael, then Steve, and then Ruth Ann.
Yeah, well, it says, I agree, Rabbi. My translation doesn't say also. It says more than. But if you look at the very next verse, the Lord saw that Leah was hated. So he didn't love her very much. But in the very next verse, Leah was hated. The translation I have is not
doesn't. But Michael, it doesn't say who hated her.
Yeah.
So Jacob or Rachel.
Yeah, but he it does. What does it say?
Just said that she was hated.
He loved Rachel more than Leah, Leah.
No, but we're talking about the next verse, 31.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind as we read on.
Marty?
Steve?
Marty? Yeah. Going back to the rabbis originally pointing out the word gam also. Actually, I looked it up in the etymological dictionary thinking maybe there was some sort of older usage of the word that does mean more than another. And sure enough, bear with me, okay. Gam, they say, probably from the base, gamam, meaning much, many, a heap. Also in Arabic, jama. That's a word I've heard before. I'm familiar with the jama. The whole jama is like the whole gang. Became much. So it's not necessarily always a conjunction, adding one to the other, saying also. Sure. There could be an inequality, okay? That, one is
guys,
more or than the other, okay? Not necessarily equating, and just saying
on 30
also this, also that. That's become the modern usage, but there may have been an older usage.
Okay.
And it does fit, if you bear with me.
As Sarah is saying, the mem is there, Melea, that there is a comparison. But I would just submit that it's possible to also read it as that, that there was love to the two of them. Gam.
Okay. Ruth Ann had her hand up before.
I just wanted to make a comment from what Susan was saying, that we do have a specific name for Leah's handmaid.
Yeah, Bilba.
Zilba. So both of them are named.
And they both were
it's
Laban's.
Like,
they both were Laban's maidservants.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as that goes, they were both kind of treated equal.
Okay. Very good. Michael, Michael and or Sarah, I know you had, and then I will go over to Chris.
Oh, it's my turn now?
No, Chris. First Sarah and Michael. They had something to say.
the whole story is that he loved Rachel more than Leah from the beginning.
Yes.
I don't know why we are even discussing this, because it's obvious. The whole story is that Jacob loved Rachel more than Leah.
But the question is, did he love Leah at all?
Now that's a good question.
Well, it says, "Vayohav gam et Rachel." It says that he loved also, that he loved both of them eventually.
That's
right.
it. Yeah.
Okay. And Michael, you had, even before Sarah, you had your hand up.
The comment I have, as far as verse 31, which is hated, it says, the Hebrew word translated here as unloved, sinuah, literally means hatred.
Yeah.
When paired with a word meaning beloved, ahuvah, in a context of a husband's relationship to his co-wives, it does not mean hated as against beloved. It refers to a degree of preference. So he preferred Rachel over Leah. And as far as the handmaidens, these two handmaidens gave birth to two of the tribes of Israel.
Right.
Each one had two sons who were, which we'll learn in a couple verses, who are equal as far as being tribes of Israel. Right. So they were significant people, you know. But
yes.
That was all I wanted to say.
Both were okay. And
there's a very interesting
Chris,
thing.
your hand has been up for a long time.
Yeah, it's hurting. No, I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
Oh, okay.
I was just wondering, because we are talking about something that is, you know, so important, the love for one another. I think that Jacob obviously appreciated that Leah was his as well, and that the promise of Abraham will be served as people multiply. His people will multiply throughout the entire world. But I definitely see that the love for Rachel was unique and special. Because there's a verse somewhere I read that it says that God says something like, you cannot serve two masters. You will serve one and hate the other, or something like that. Am I misquoting the Bible? But, and I feel that that's what his love was really dedicated to Rachel, because you cannot love two people the same way being your wife. I think you can love your children. And even then, I think we have as a mother, you know, we love our children, but we respect and recognize that each one being different in some way. So it would be almost impossible that Jacob will love both women the same way. It's impossible. I don't think that
it's a question if he loved them the same way. He just loved both of them in different ways.
Yes, that's more that's what I have.
Yeah,
that's true. In Sforno's commentary, he rather than going into the whole discussion, he says that he says it does not express hatred. But it is a degree, a relative degree of preference. So,
but, I'm sorry, but it does say it. Maybe he didn't do it, but definitely Leah felt it, because she said, "Finally, my husband will love me now that I have a child by him." Isn't that what it said? So she felt it. So it could have been, it couldn't have been that obvious for one as the other that who was loved more.
If I could
does say that.
You can have it as far as I know, Michael.
I just wanted to say this is carried on through Jacob's preference for Joseph.
Right.
Joseph was the son of Rachel, he definitely preferred him more than his other sons because he was the child of Rachel.
Oh, Rachel.
He spoiled
Right.
the other brothers, hated him, they resented him, they were jealous of him.
Exactly.
He was a spoiled brat. And so it carried on. I mean, as another example of his preference for Rachel, he preferred Rachel's son. And there's later Binyamin, but he was too young, at that point.
I think we're talking to, it's just there are different ways to love, okay? Yeah. Obviously, he loved Rachel more. He wanted first to marry her.
Right.
Originally, right? And Leah was pushed on him because in that time, the firstborn, the girl was supposed to marry first. That's how it was the custom at the time. And it's just obviously, I don't know, it's so obvious. Yeah, he loved Rachel more than he loved Leah. And even though he loved her too, eventually, but it wasn't the same kind of love. There are different kinds of, ways to love.
Okay. Steve, I think you had your hand up for, oh, you didn't? The pictures sometimes jump around. So I thought somebody else had their hand up. Michael, go ahead.
I don't want to be doing all the talking. I just want to relate a story in my own family. My mother had an older sister. My mother had been dating my father for 2 years, and they planned their wedding. Her older sister, Miriam, was not dating anybody. They planned their wedding for August 28th. Miriam met a man on Memorial Day of that year at a wedding, and they decided to get engaged 3 months, no, it was 1 month later they got engaged. And they decided, well, why don't we have our weddings together? We'll have a double wedding. That way, our parents won't have to pay for 2 weddings. We want to get married right away. And so even though my mother and father had planned this wedding date, it was all of a sudden, she's got to have a wedding with her sister. And there was some resentment. I mean, they did it, they agreed to it, but it was, I think part of it was, I don't want my younger sister get married before I do. So we're talking about this as biblical times, and that doesn't happen anymore. This was in 1948. So, it still can happen today.
Sure.
Well,
beautiful story.
It is. It is. Any other comments? Or yes, Joanne.
One of the things we haven't talked about is the word maidservant. And Laban gave his daughters both maidservants. But maidservants, does that mean that he has slept with them like concubines? And this past week, we've heard a lot about the new, probably Supreme Court judge, that for years she was called a handmaid. For some reason, maidservant and handmaid, both to me, I don't know what the meanings are in Judaism, but both of them for some reason ends up feeling like almost the same to me. So, any comments?
Steve?
Yeah, I have a comment. Yeah, and I think the handmaiden reference to the justice, my understanding of that is that's more of a reference to the series. I don't remember what, but there is a very popular series on one of the streaming services, The Handmaid's Tale, where there is a dystopian society where this sort of a form of extreme religiosity appears, and that was my understanding of it. It wasn't a biblical reference when they were talking about the justice being a handmaiden. That was a negative reference, equating her to this, belonging to this odd dystopian society. If anybody is familiar with the series, it's a pretty gruesome series. I didn't get through it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. Any
Rabbi,
other, Rabbi, you had a comment?
Well, I'll just answer Joanne. To the best of my knowledge, when they're referred to, Zilpah and Bilhah, when they're referred to as his handmaidens, that doesn't mean that they had concubine status for him. There's a separate term for concubine in the Bible, in the Torah. Okay, so my understanding is that they may have been in Laban's retinue of servants, and he's specifically adding them literally into the dowry. To Jacob, as you get this daughter for your wife, you're also getting the handmaid. Whether you decide that she stays as a servant to your wife or one of your wives, or whether you want to take her on as a concubine, which is what actually happens.
Correct.
But there's no implication that I'm aware of that Laban had any kind of a sexual relationship with either of them.
Right. Also, I thought another answer would have been Abraham's manservant, Eliezer, who goes to,
that was
or Eleazar.
Hagar. You're talking about Hagar?
No, the manservant, not his wife, not his. That's different.
Right.
We're talking about the manservant that goes to find Rebecca. Okay, so
that's an Eved,
and he's called a manservant, and we discussed at that time people who are manservants or people who are maid servants are elevated. They are next in line for inheritance if there are no progeny. If these people never marry, these are next in line to receive the benefits of ownership of whatever the master has. So we had discussed that before. Yes, Chris.
Yes, it's kind of strange. Well, it's not strange. It seems like history repeats itself, because it is not Jacob who says, I think Leah is not producing anymore and Rachel is barren. Let me go try to do something with the other girls. I think it was Leah who proposed her maidservant to Jacob to produce more children. In other words, I want to keep ahead so that I can be loved by my husband. And after she did that, then Rachel thought, oh, maybe I can do that too. So it reminds me of Sarah trying to rush the God's purpose into doing this thing. Of course, we were supposed to have 12 tribes. That's regardless of what they did. But it just surprised me that the same thing they did, they thought about this. I mean, I don't think, it doesn't show in there that either Abraham or Jacob were the ones saying, hey, there's still another 2 girls there that we have not experimented with, if I can say that.
Okay, maybe this is, we'll see how this case of sibling rivalry unfolds.
Yeah,
okay. First Larry, then Michael.
To follow up on Steve's reference to Margaret Atwood's Handmaid's Tale, fertility was very rare, and the women were actually put into a form of sexual slavery to reproduce. And this is similar. Rachel could not at this time, she was considered barren.
Right. We'll
And-
get to all of this discussion. It comes up after we finish. We haven't even read anything about this yet.
I know.
We are now an hour ahead of ourselves. Yes,
No.
Michael, you had your hand up.
Just two things. I have a comment here that says, in ancient Mesopotamia, it was the custom for a father to present his daughter with a maid on her marriage. So that was just the custom that now that you're married, I'm going to give you one of my servants to be your maidservant.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was for her, not for the man.
Right.
And also, I just want to make a correction. It was Rachel's maidservant who became a concubine before Leah's.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. And okay.
Okay, Marty?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yes, Ricky.
Yeah. Oh, well, there's no contrast here. You can't see my hand. Every time I get to this, I think of what a messed up family this is. There probably is not one healthy kid coming out of any of these unions. And one time in my synagogue in Connecticut, we had a guy come in that made like a play. He started out with Jacob, a person, then he picked somebody from the audience, from the congregation to be Rachel, somebody else to be Leah, somebody else to be each of the kids, and where they all sided with each other. And this, never mind Jesus Christ Superstar, this family would make a great Broadway play, great movie, great soap opera. I mean, because it's the most messed up family situation. You got 4 women, 12 kids, I don't know how they ever got along, but that's me and the psychologist.
It's a good point.
Get along.
It's a good point. This is
yeah, exactly. They didn't get along, but it was 1 against 11. So there was always the one outsider. But you got rid of him. The other 11, I thought, got along pretty well, or at least they
at various
together.
Times.
Huh?
At various times.
At various times. All I know is that this is, I could use other stronger words, but this is probably one of the most messed up families, period, in our Bible.
okay.
That's my
Any
comment.
other comments? Any other comments at this point?
Just that these are supposed to be all lessons for us.
What
And what not to do.
Okay.
Exactly.
If
One life at a
would
time.
if somebody would like to start reading verse 31, because we've already discussed this, what we're about to read. But anyway, let's see what
Sorry
we've
about
written.
that.
Okay, so if somebody would like to start at verse 31.
I'll do it. The Lord saw
Okay,
that Leah
thank
was.
you.
The Lord saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb. But Rachel was barren. Leah conceived and bore a son and named him Reuben, for she declared, it means, the Lord has seen my affliction. It also means, now my husband will love me. She conceived again, and
Now-
we went there. We've already discussed all that, I thought.
That's right. But what is in verse 31? Any comments about that? We say it says here that Leah was unloved
Barren.
and Rachel
Barren.
was
Rachel
barren.
was barren.
Any comments about that? All right. Do we I should say any further comments about that? Okay. And now Reuben is born, and Ricky, the Reuben Did anybody else want to comment about the name Reuben?
Reuben, thinking.
I like the sandwich.
Marty?
Yeah, but it can't be kosher if it's got pastrami and Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes, Steve.
Yeah. It means Reuben. It means
First.
look. It's a son.
have a
You know,
son.
so it was very, very
It's a
exciting.
boy.
And you know what occurred to me? You asked a moment ago if anyone had any comments on the verse that sort of implies that God intervened here, that God saw that, you know, which is interesting because it's a little bit like a Greek myth, you know, where the gods start getting involved, play with the protagonists, and
Right.
you know, make things interesting. So yeah, but you know, God in this case, you know, his motivation was that you know, poor Leah, she's less loved. You know, I'll give her something. You know, so God was the force behind it. Didn't just happen that way. According to the narrative, God saw to it that it would happen that way. That Leah would be the one with the first son. And it was kind of a big deal, which is implied by the name, Reuben. You know, look, not only do we have a child, but we have a son. It's great.
It can be two things. It can be, look, I have a son. She was
See, a
showing
son.
up.
Yeah.
That's right. Right.
Look, I have a son. Or it could be because it's Resh Aleph Hey, which is the root, and it means, it says, God has seen my troubles,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So either one, she was either showing up or she said, oh, God has seen my troubles and he gave me a son.
Right. Okay. And then
And
Marty?
anyone want to keep reading on?
Yeah,
Marty?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Larry.
sorry. Yes, Rabbi.
Larry.
Oh, Larry wanted.
Oh, I'm
Larry had
sorry.
his hand up first, so yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Friedman in 2932 has an extensive commentary, and she called his name Reuben. Jacob's two wives named their own children and those born of their maids. In other cases, the fathers name the children.
Right.
What is the convention? What are the exceptions? The record of who names whom in Genesis is, and they list every named child and who names it, whether it's the father or the mother. And both Leah and Rachel name many of the children, but Jacob names Levi. And if you want, I can give you the names Leah from Rachel.
Let's hold on to that until we do a summary of all of this.
Yeah, please.
Okay? Because otherwise we'll be jumping ahead 2 hours. Okay.
Maybe a couple of months.
Okay. Rabbi, you had your hand
No,
up.
I was going to say something of the same thing.
Okay.
That we should note that it's the mothers who give the
Yes.
name, like Sarah named Isaac. You know, it's not totally consistent, but more often than not.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what is the significance? It's okay to say that, okay, now, you know, here a woman is making is naming the child. But what is the significance of that?
Wait, Marty,
Yes, Ruth Ann.
in the case of Isaac, I mean, did Sarah really name him? I thought God told Sarah what the name was going to be.
Yes.
I thought that. So in those particular cases, I don't think you could really say that the mother named the child. God named the child.
Exactly.
Right.
I agree.
I think those were totally different than what we're talking about here.
Exactly. So now it becomes the woman's role here. We're seeing the women have more say than the men. So what is happening here? Yes, Chris.
Well, I think it's the continuation of a rivalry, between the sisters. It's more strong than before. Now they're using the children and the children's names to kind of attack one another. It feels that way, at least when it says, also, now I have a child that has the perfect name, that now my husband will love me. Another reminder that she's not loved by God because she is barren. I don't know.
Well, that actually is one of the commentaries. What you bring up, because in addition to God has seen my affliction. It also, it says, one of the interpretation is not just that see a son is born, but also that God has seen my affliction. In other words, attributing this to God's will.
To God. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But at the same time, it's saying he's seeing my affliction, but he's not seeing your affliction.
No, it's just saying that I think it's just personal,
Okay.
And now, God has seen this. It also implies that maybe she has been in a similar situation to Sarah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, I don't know, but we have to think of if everyone else is bringing in all possibilities, I'll bring up another possibility. And so that's why I think that when we jump ahead and then go back and forth, we should do it as we go along and see how the names are arrived at, okay, and what they may mean. So any other comments about Reuben besides being a sandwich? I like that, Ricky. So let's go on to the next verse. Okay. Well, it's just anyone want to read?
I'll be happy to read it.
After to continue with reading verse
Marty?
32.
Marty?
Yes.
Pardon me. I'm sorry. I need to go back. I stand corrected, but Ruth Ann, we need to correct both of ourselves. Okay. Abraham gave Isaac the name, not Sarah and not God.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. So it's if anybody wants to look it up, it's Genesis 21, the 21 verse 3.
Yeah, if I could just add to that.
Yeah, right.
Actually, she was
Sarah. My confusion. Sarah makes this comment afterwards, justifying the name, but Abraham actually gave him the name.
And in fact, Sarah denies that she laughed. She says to God, I did not laugh. And he said, you did laugh.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Okay, that was it.
Sorry for the interruption.
And Michael, did you mean that God said that you did laugh?
Yeah, because Sarah denies laughing.
Right.
She said, I did not laugh.
Right.
And he says, you did laugh.
And you did laugh, and now the name of your son is going to keep on reminding you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go on to the other half of verse 32.
Yeah, 33, I think.
33.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the other half.
The other half of what? Okay.
Now my husband will love me.
Well, we only.
Well, I read that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little harder to justify.
We're not going to skip over Simeon.
No, we haven't gotten to Shimon and Simeon.
Yeah, okay.
But the now my husband will love me as a secondary meaning of Reuven is a little harder to come to get to, but the commentators accept it, but it's a little harder to get there.
Okay. All right, so 33.
She conceived again and bore a son and declared, "This is because the Lord heard that I was unloved and has given me this one also." So she named him Simeon. Again,
Okay, let's stop at that point, as I said. And anybody want to discuss that?
Yeah, let me help a little bit, because you may not get the connection from Simeon into the Hebrew, which is Shimon. That comes from Shama. Okay, it would help if they translated it as Shimeon, SH, rather than just an S. But it's the word, the verb there is from Shama.
Like when we have the Shema.
That's right.
Exactly.
So that's where it is derived. So this is the second time she's saying that this is she understands.
Unloved. Yeah.
She is understanding that it's coming from God also. Okay, because and giving God credit for this.
Right.
Okay, and again, so let's go on with the next verse.
Again, she conceived and bore a son and declared, "This time my husband will become attached to me, for I have borne him 3 sons." So she's given up on love and she's going just to plain attachment. Therefore, he was named Levi. She conceived again and bore a son and declared, "This time I will praise the Lord." Therefore, she named him Judah. Then she stopped bearing.
Okay. Any comments about the names at all?
Let's see. Levi is Judah, Oda. Let's see.
I have a question. What does Judah mean in Hebrew?
Excuse me?
What does Judah mean in Hebrew?
Yehuda is the one who echoes praises.
Wait a minute, we're jumping way ahead, guys. Let's just talk about Simeon. Let's just talk about Simeon, and then we'll talk about
I'm
Levi.
trying to find Simeon.
Because
we're
going all over the place.
I'm sorry, I thought we went past it.
Let's talk about Simeon. All right. What is important here?
Oh, let me get out my other book.
Simeon? Oh, I thought this.
Shimon.
We already talked about.
Where's Shimon? It was brought up. Okay, but what else? What else is if it's Simeon?
He said, God has heard me, my troubles, and I was unloved. He heard.
Okay, God has heard, right?
He's heard that I'm unloved.
But if we use S-I-M, sim, what does that mean in Hebrew?
Oh, well, sim is put.
Priest.
Does that mean, okay, and what does sim mean in Arabic?
Oh, Arabic.
Well, it's not sim in Hebrew. It's
Wolf.
Shimon.
As a rabbi said. From Shema.
Yes, we discussed all of that. Yeah. But it also, in Arabic, the word sim is the hybrid offspring of a hyena and female wolf.
Oh.
Wow.
It's totally out of context.
Yeah, because it's
what is even called by Jacob on his deathbed?
33.
What?
Somewhere it reminds me of a wolf.
Talk about jumping ahead. Now,
I know, but keep this in mind, because when he's talking about each one of his sons on his deathbed,
Yeah.
he is implying that Reuben is like a wolf who
Reuben or
dot, dot,
same
dot,
as
dot.
Shimon?
Yeah, that's true.
So keep
You
that in
went
mind
way ahead.
when for a discussion in several months.
Yes, you're
Okay.
way ahead.
So now a third son is born, Levi.
Levi.
Okay, or
Levy.
Levi.
Every
And any ideas about that?
In my full share of children. I have a comment here. It says about Levi that the matriarchs were prophecies, and they knew that Jacob was to beget 12 tribes by 4 wives. One, Leah had 3 sons. She said, "Now my husband will have no cause of complaint against me, for I have given him my full share of children." That's
Okay.
That's Rashi.
But we're talking here about the name Levi.
by Levi.
Okay. And I have a commentary here again in Sforno. There's a similar word in Akkadian and in Manaean, which designates a special class of temple servitors.
So priestly, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Levites.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Levi.
So you start to see there's not just what we have been talking about, that all about Rachel and Leah and their naming for events that are occurring, but there may be some other meanings to come with
Right.
each one of these names. It's not just as necessarily as simple. So let's read on, and then what happens in verse 34.
Another kid.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
Levi.
go ahead.
Well, no, we read that.
No,
That's
That's right.
35 is
Come Levi, and 35.
Right.
And she has Judah.
It's got
Um,
Okay.
I got
We
some
could
interesting
Judah.
comments from here on Judah. Judah, this contains the letters of God's ineffable name, as well as the root that means thankfulness and praise, according to Sforno. Thus, the name has the connotation of thanks to God. She was especially grateful now because, as the mother of 1/3 of Jacob's 12 sons, she had been granted more than her rightful share, according to Rashi. Shidushi Harim notes that the Jews have come to be called Yehudim after Judah because it is a Jewish characteristic always to be grateful to God with the attitude that he has given more than our rightful share.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it says, that in one interpretation,
Yeah.
this time I will praise the Lord.
Right.
So that there's more to this than you remember when we started in Genesis, and early on, we were talking about the names and how they were derived and like that and what they represented. Here's another situation where the name, it's much more, as Ricky is pointing out too, it's much more than everything.
Right.
And because of this, the Kabbalists, Ricky, if you look up Bina,
I'm not such an expert, but you always call on me. But
well, you okay, but Bina
I usually come up with
is understanding, and
Yeah.
and it's attributed to her to have the understanding that God has given all of this through her. It's going to it becomes that's why she is given eventually a higher sephirot Okay, one of the highest Sephiroth than
Well, you know
all of
about
the
Leah?
patriarchs.
Leah is associated with the crown, which is the highest
Well,
above Bina and
no. That's
Oh.
reserved for God,
Huh?
and that's reserved for God.
Right.
Cheta.
Okay.
Okay, and Bina is understanding and she is
okay.
attributed to that.
Okay, then I miswrote
Okay.
something.
Okay.
Okay.
And so with this in mind,
Marty, Sarah's
Sarah's
got her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Sarah.
So it comes from Lamed Vav Hey, Lamed.
Yes.
So what she's, it says here that now my husband will become attached to me. Now that I gave him my third child, he will be attached to me. And because she's giving him three sons. So it's kind of the Lavet also like being like attached, follow her, that she's okay now, that she's going to be his one that he's going to be attached to.
Okay, very good. Yes, Michael.
Well, I have a comment here about Yehuda. This time I will praise the Lord. The names of Leah's first three sons reflect her frustrating rivalry with her sister for the love of the husband they share. The reasons given for her choice of names for the first three children say nothing about her hopes for them, but focus solely on how the births will affect her marriage. Now, with a fourth son, her mood changes from rivalry to gratitude. So she names him Yehuda, from a Hebrew root meaning to praise. In the future, the descendants of Jacob will be known as Judeans or Jews, Yehudim. Yohanan stated, from the beginning of time, no one ever thanked God as Leah did. Her heartfelt prayer of thanks reflects her having grown from self-concern and a focus on what she lacked to a genuine sense of appreciation for what was hers.
Right.
So,
and it's a gift from, that's right, it's a gift.
So it comes from a thankfulness, lehodot, lehodot. So that this time, it's time for me to praise God for giving me all these children.
Right. Okay. Now we start with Rachel. More sibling rivalry.
And I just say, I'm sorry. It says in verse 35, therefore she named him Judah, then she stopped bearing. She stopped bearing. The comment I see says, no reason for this is given. But chapter 30, verses 14, 15 indicate that Jacob had ceased sleeping with her.
Yeah.
So she gave him four sons, and he decided he didn't need to sleep with her.
Enough is enough.
Yeah, I don't think it's a Rashi, because it's not Rashi's style, but the Hebrew says that she stood up from giving birth. Okay. Which there's a commentary that says that she no longer would lie down for him.
She decided to stop.
She decided, right. Not that it ended her fertility, but that she stopped.
Yeah. So
She
with the
didn't
fourth
want no
one,
more children.
with the fourth one, she said, "I'm thanking God for giving me all the four.
Right.
Thank you very much."
And I'm done.
Dayenu.
Exactly.
Which is interesting.
I'm done enough.
That implies
Like
that implies that she had a choice as to whether she would have sex with her husband.
Exactly. I like
Not
that.
normally the way we look at tradition.
Right.
Right.
In fact, you can divorce a wife if she won't have sex with you. So it was interesting.
Okay.
Marty?
Yeah, wait a minute. Oh, Steve, yes. Thank you. Yes. Steve.
No, just referencing the rabbi's comment, it's an interesting comment, but in common Hebrew usage, la'amod, and with some sort of verb, it just means simple stopping.
Oh.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean the action of getting up from a lying position and resisting something actively. It's simply stopping, and the implication is you're walking and then you're standing. Okay, so you
Well, that's
the
modern
activity.
Hebrew. That's modern Hebrew. That's not necessarily
Yeah, which
the Torah.
may be, but that might be the same as the ancient Hebrew. I
in a sense.
assume it was,
Well, when
because
you-
it's
when you-
sort of fancy modern Hebrew, which is often the older or biblical.
I have a question.
Okay, wait a minute. I have multiple hands. Michael and then Chris.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if you call a woman up to the Torah for an aliyah, you say ta'amod.
Right.
She will stand. Yeah, so there is a reference as far as gender.
Yeah, but that's a different.
Also for men.
That's a different.
Yeah, okay. That was it.
Okay, Chris.
Yes, a question here. If she took the stand to make a decision to stop this, why did she stop? It's curiosity. I'm curious about, was it that she came to the conclusion that Jacob was not going to be any difference as many kids as she could ever have? Or that she just was tired being mom? Or she, because she had to make a decision on this, and I'm curious. What
She
should
changes her mind.
Did
She
anyone
does
ever
have more
think
children.
that maybe it was, that it was the womb was being overused?
Yeah, that's true, but, tired of having kids. But emotionally, I mean, she was on the road there for a while. And emotionally, I'm wondering if she had quit or stopped.
Maybe it's just physiological. We don't have to, we're saying, we're bringing into this an awful lot of emotions that we deal with currently, but suppose it just stopped.
She just.
I don't know. Now I got a whole bunch of hands that are going up. Ruth Ann, then David, then Michael. Oh, and Ricky, did you have your hand up too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I still go by what I said earlier at the very beginning. I think Leah was in love with
Jacob.
Okay? Rachel may not have been in love with him, but I think Leah was in love with him, a romantic love, okay? But she realized that he was not in love with her. So after the birth of the first child, she thought, okay, well, now he will be romantically in love with me. Still wasn't. So she had the second, the third, the fourth. After the fourth, she just decided, he ain't never going to be romantically in love with me. Forget him.
Right.
Okay.
I like that.
Okay. Then I have Javid.
Actually, you have Wendy. One of the things everybody is saying was she stopped, bearing children for Jacob because she already had 4 and everyone's equating that with not having sex anymore because, women are supposed to, at that time, if their husband wanted sex, they had sex. But those women all knew their cycles. They knew when not to have sex if they didn't want a child. So it wasn't like she stopped having sex with him. She just didn't have sex at the opportune times. That's all.
Good point.
Well, she didn't have any more children, so that's it.
No, she did. She did have more children.
Yeah.
She will.
Yeah.
She will.
Wow. Okay, so then.
So, Michael, you've had your hand up for a long time, and then Ricky, and then Larry.
I think that she realized that one thing she could do that Rachel could not was give children to Jacob. But she always knew that he would rather be with Rachel.
Mhm.
So it probably wasn't a very enjoyable relationship when she had sex with him. She knew he doesn't even want me. He's not even interested in me. He doesn't really even love me. And now that I've given him 4 sons, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
Okay.
But
Ricky?
Yeah, just real quick, when she had the 4th, I was just thinking the heir and a spare. So she did her 3, and she did 1 more spare. That's it. Boom, I'm done. You know, I mean, so I just
the
thought
basketball team.
the heir, she did her requirement of 1/4 of the children that he was supposed to have, but she threw in 1 extra.
Okay. Larry, and then Grace.
Okay, I want to bring the point of view from the Women's Torah commentary. The story of Rachel and Leah is told as a classic narrative of sibling rivalry between the unloved, fertile wife and the loved and beautiful, barren one. It is a story told from Jacob's perspective. We barely get a glimpse of what Rachel and Leah thought or felt. What if they speak to us and to each other? What would they say? Rachel and Leah's rivalry is not unlike that of Jacob and Esau. The brothers struggle for their father's blessing, the sisters for Jacob's love. The brothers vie for the rights of the firstborn, the sisters for the status of the fertile wife. With each new birth, Rachel and Leah appear to grow further apart from each other, and they never find one another's embrace. So this is from the
A good one.
oh, I like that.
A good one.
Thank you, Larry.
Someone else had a raised hand, I
Grace.
think. Oh, Grace. I apologize, Grace. You're muted. There you go.
Thank you. Just a question. I took a quick note, but I didn't get everything out of it I wanted. Judah and Yehuda. So the Hebrew is Yehuda, correct? And
Right.
Yeah.
Rabbi Norman said something about what that name meant, and I would like to hear it again, please.
It comes from the root that means to praise or to thank. So he will praise God, he will thank God, I will thank God. You know, there's the phrase Todah, or from the liturgy, Modim Anachnu Lach. They're all acknowledging praise and acknowledging thanks.
Right.
Thank you.
But the interesting thing is Yehuda also then through the generations becomes the Hebrew word for a Jew. And Yahadut is Judaism.
Thank you.
So we
But,
went from
Rabbi-
Yehudi, which is the Hebrew, and then we're going to become Yehuda, which is a Jew.
Okay.
But wasn't that the consequence of all the other tribes getting lost? Or most of them?
You're right.
Am I muted? Oh.
Yeah, it was Judea.
Well,
Rabbi, isn't the prominence?
Yehuda becomes the primary of the southern tribes,
Yeah.
the largest population,
Right.
and so we're all known that way, right?
But the fact that the tribes of the north disappeared helped
Right.
that happen.
Right.
well, that's more than I asked for, but thank you. What I wrote down in my notes was a best creation equals. So I wrote down, Judah equals Yehuda and equals a best creation. That's
Thankfulness.
How about praise?
Thankfulness.
Yeah.
Good
Praise.
praise.
Judas praise and thankfulness.
Yeah. Thankfulness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey,
All right.
well, now we're going to see what happens with Rachel.
Do we
Okay.
dare?
So would somebody care to read, I guess this will be 30 verse 1?
You want me to continue?
Sure.
Okay. When Rachel saw that she had borne Jacob no children, she became envious of her sister. And Rachel said to Jacob, "Give me children or I shall die." I want to stop
Okay,
there.
did you want to make any comments about this?
Oh my God, talk about melodramatic. That's almost like, give me that red porridge or I will die. You know, what's with these people that no matter what it is, if I don't get my way, I will die.
Give me that soup or I will die.
Yeah, exactly. That's peace out. And now we got, so, and it says Jacob was incensed at Rachel, it said. But
Yes.
anyway.
Go ahead, read on.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good. I have a comment on the Hebrew.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait. Just Steve.
Steve
Yes.
has a comment. Okay.
Yeah, if I could. You know, what she says in Hebrew is, if you don't give me a child, meta anochi. And literally, again, sort of playing around with the Hebrew a little bit, she doesn't say, I will die. She says, I'm a dead woman. If you don't give me a child, I am a dead woman. So what she's saying, again, you know, not taking away from the melodrama, but she's saying, I may as well be dead.
Yeah.
Or I am dead. Or I like, if I don't have a child,
I'm a dead
woman.
I'm as good as dead.
Might as well be dead, or let me die.
Okay, I'm going to go to Gail and then Rabbi Roman.
I find it interesting that for a woman who hasn't said one darn word or been quoted, suddenly this is her first line. I mean, it's just, you know, and it's so strong. I really find that interesting that she, you know, this dramatic statement out of nothing. Why didn't she speak up like this way back when? You know, I mean, we never get to hear anything about her.
It's coming to a head.
Well, yeah, but it's now. I'm talking about from before.
Right. Where has she
should have
been?
been
Where's
part
her
of the
voice
discourse
been all
earlier. Yeah, I find this kind of strange.
Okay, yes, Rabbi, and then Rabbi, you had your hand up, and then Michael.
Yeah, I believe it's Ibn Ezra. It may be Maimonides in the commentary. Is with in Rachel's phrase, the Hebrew is meta anochi. She doesn't say like Steve was saying. She doesn't say ani mate or meta. It's I'm going to die. When the comment is that whenever the Hebrew word anochi, rather than just I, whether God is speaking, whether Abraham is speaking, whether Jonah is speaking, anochi means that this is how I am identified. This is how I want to be known. This is my reputation. This is how people will relate to me.
Okay.
So it's more than just, it's as if I'm dead. It's, people are going to call, oh, there she is. It's as if she's dead to the world, dead to her husband, dead to the clan.
Yeah.
This is really a strong complaint.
This is serious. Yeah. This is serious.
And again, as Gail was saying, where's her voice been through the whole story? But now she's finally fed up with it and says, okay, enough is enough.
Yeah, it's another way of putting it, according to Sforno, life without children would not be worth living. It's another statement, but what the rabbi is saying is much more emphatic. Yes, Michael.
Yeah, I have an interesting comment here. Is this simply exaggeration born out of Rachel's rivalry with Leah, or is she saying without the vicarious immortality conferred by children, her life will disappear when she dies?
Yeah.
Ironically, Rachel is destined to die in the act of giving birth to a second child.
Yes.
So she will die by giving birth.
Because she has no continuation.
Her life is worthless without children.
an interesting play of words here.
Yeah, that is.
So, any other comments? Okay, but verse 2, 30,
Jacob
verse
was,
2.
yeah. Jacob was incensed at Rachel and said, "Can I take the place of God who has denied you fruit of the womb?"
She has to file a brief. Anyway, any comments about this? What is Jacob saying here?
I can't help you there.
Not my problem.
It's in God's hands.
That's right.
All of this has been deemed by God.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so that's the excuse for Leah, and and it's also the excuse for you. I can't do it. I can't say anything. It's in the hands of God.
Oh.
Gail's raising her hand.
Wait a minute. Oh, Gail. Okay, you're in the shadow again. I'm sorry, Gail.
Okay. I was just thinking that his mother tells him what to do, his wives tell him what to do, and then God tells him what to do. I think he's just mute.
You did, Jacob. Okay. Well, anyway, what else? Anything else?
But he doesn't give up. He always gets what he wants.
I feel that way too, that he just gave up. He's just throwing his hands up to the heavens.
Yes, Michael.
Yeah, I have a comment here. The sages criticized Jacob for his insensitive response.
Yeah.
Might it be that Jacob is disappointed to learn that his love is not enough to satisfy Rachel? That Rachel's primary passion is to be a mother, not just a wife. So he's been criticized for that response because he was insensitive. And he was also saying, aren't I enough? I thought just loving me is all you need, So interesting take on it.
Mm.
So what is...
Okay, Mark?
Wait, I'm sorry. Yes. Larry first.
Going back in Genesis, Sarah was not fertile until the visit from the angels. So God is absolutely a prime decider here.
Okay.
Right.
Good point. And Steve?
No, at great risk, as a comment to Gail's comment about is Jacob mute, I'd like to tell a very short joke. Okay, little Morris came home from school and excitedly told his mother that he had a role in the school play. And mother said, "What's your role?" And little Morris said, "Well, I'm the Jewish husband." So the mother says, "You go right back to your teacher and tell her you want a speaking part."
Yeah.
On that note,
I think that's a good place to
tune
end.
in next week. Tune in next week to find out what Rachel says about the matter. Rabbi,
I have a house.
First Rabbi.
Yeah, I just want to kind of cull things together that, in context, Jacob has now become a man of faith, right?
Yes.
A faith in God. And yes, the tradition is to be somewhat upset with Jacob's response to Rachel at this point. But on the other hand, he's saying, look, it's in God's hands. I know the story of my grandfather, of Abraham, and Sarah, who am I to question God's decision to prevent you from giving children?
Right.
Again, you can understand that. I don't think he's being pedantic towards her. I think he's just accepting this is the fate. Of course, it's it's difficult to put yourself in that situation.
Jacob's
I have here
relationship.
2 words.
Okay, what, Sarah?
I have here 2 words, and it's a play of words. If you know Hebrew, put the word sin'ah, and underneath it, put ahava. Sin'ah, ahava, and then put a line between the sin and the noon and the aleph and the hey.
Can you hold it closer, maybe?
I don't know if they can see it.
It doesn't come through very well. But
Yeah,
go ahead.
You can't see it.
Okay.
Can you see?
It's got to focus.
Sin'ah and ahava. And if you put a line in between, when 1/2 of the combination of the 2 words says sin'ah and the other one says ahava.
Right.
It's a very interesting.
Yeah. Hatred and love.
So it's a mix. Hatred and love.
Very interesting. Very
Right?
interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
The opposite of love.
Ricky?
Before we go, while I have all of you learned people here, I have a question on halakha. As I mentioned once, I read biblical, and I found my whole cache, and I'm reading back issues, and they're talking about the pool of Bethesda, where there was 2 pools. One had the natural water. I mean, it was the lower pool was definitely a group mikveh, and the other pool they called an Otzer. It was the reservoir that always had capturing fresh, natural water. According, water given. They're using the term water given by the hand of God as opposed to drawn water. But here's where I lead into my question. If the lower pool, the mikveh, became impure, it could be purified by contact with the naturally collected water of the Otzer. And I thought it was the other way. I thought if impure water and pure water touched each other, that all became impure.
Become impure, right.
But this is saying the exact opposite, that they had a reservoir of pure water that if the lower pool became impure, they could put a little pure water in and that would purify the impure. So am I remembering right? And this is wrong?
Kosher mikveh has to allow pure rainwater or natural water to be able to flow into the impure water that may have become impure.
But
that's in a mikveh. It may be totally different for other kinds of libations or liquid, but in a mikveh.
But in a mikveh, if pure water touches impure water, does the impure become pure, or does the pure become impure?
No, the impure becomes purified.
Oh, okay. Then
by adding a percentage of pure water.
Okay. I would really hate for them to have an incorrect halakha.
I love the magazine.
But are you saying then what I remembered may be true also, but in other circumstances? Like if I have a jug of pure water and a jug of impure water, and I mix them, that it's all impure?
I don't think so. I think there's separate laws for a mikveh.
Yeah. You're talking about
non-mikveh situations. Which way is it?
I don't know. I'm saying I don't know. But I know that there are specific and actually lenient qualifications for the flow into a mikveh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Isn't there a law of kashrut that if you have a pot of soup, but you have a few drops of treif in the soup, that it's still considered kosher? That it's the amount, I think.
Okay, maybe that is the context.
Yeah, doesn't it purify the entire pot of soup if it's just a few drops of treif?
But if you had a whole potato that was treif, I mean, a little bit more, then the whole pot of stew would become treif?
It's a
Is
matter
that
of degree.
taken from
That may be where
Orthodox?
the connection that I made that I'm trying to.
Michael, is that taken from the Orthodox?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the laws of kashrut, right.
Okay.
All right.
Any,
Well,
and
how much
Ruth
is
Ann,
more
do
than a
you
few
have any
bucks? But anyway,
announcements?
no, that's.
Nope.
I have one.
Okay.
I have one.
Okay.
Tuesday.
Gail, yes.
Yes, Tuesday. And this is for everybody, men, women, friends, neighbors, whatever. The sisterhood is going to be meeting at the Canoa Ranch on the frontage road at 10:30 on Tuesday. Bring a chair, a lunch, something to drink, a hat, sunscreen. We're going to socially distance, but celebrate being together. Bring husbands, boy toys, whatever.
Masks.
Here you go with my boy toy again.
Bring a mask, but since
Yes.
we're going to be eating, we'll have to move our chairs apart when we're eating. So at
One of the-
10:30
And that is Canoa Ranch.
The question has been brought up about lavatory facilities there. There are no lavatory facilities, but there is a portable latrine. Okay, so just so that people know that what is there, and I just wanted, the question came up earlier in another discussion group, and I just wanted to make mention of that there are latrine facilities there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yes, Larry.
Tomorrow morning, Social Action Committee is doing the walk against hate, 9 o'clock. Meet at the synagogue if you'd like to join us. We'll do masks, social distance, and you can walk as little or much as you'd like.
Well,
for a good cause.
Okay, and I can bring up one more thing.
Excuse me, 1 second. Michael had his hand up. Yes, Michael.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to Michael, it was nice talking to you yesterday. The conversation was very wonderful, and I hope we can continue that.
Absolutely, I enjoyed it.
And also to Sarah. And also one other comment, I would like to ask Rabbi Roman if you would be available this afternoon for a talk on the telephone.
Actually, I can't, Michael. If it can wait for a few days, I'm in New York.
Okay.
And with family. I mean, if it's an emergency, certainly, but I'm trying to spend as much time as I can with the family.
No, it is not an emergency, and a few days is fine. Thank you.
Okay, I'll call you when I get back to Arizona.
Anytime. Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay.
Ruth Ann? I wanted to say that it was great to see you all.
Same here, Micah. It's always fun having you join us.
Yes, I was gonna say it was great having everybody. I'm glad you finally made it. I hope you come back again.
You will.
It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shavua Tov.
Nice big group today.